Welcome to the Byram Hills Board of Education meeting on October 10th, 2017. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we begin, can I have a motion to appoint Jen Lamia as District Clerk Pro Tem?
So moved.
Thanks. Second? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. And just for the record, the meeting was called to order at 7:40. We went right into executive session. We discussed 3.1 legal matter individual employee, 3.2 legal matter individual employee, 3.3 legal matter district finance, and 3.4 legal matter budget. At this time, are there any comments from the public of any matters not on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Yes, I have one.
Yes,
I-
Ira.
Yeah,
Yes.
for 6 years, Amy Fennell was a member of the Byram Hills Board of Education. She's going through a very difficult time right now, and I just want her to be recognized. Amy, we're thinking of you, we wish you well. Get better fast, and we'll talk to you soon, but hang in there. Thank you.
Ira.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve our agenda for this evening?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And all in favor? And can I have a motion to adopt, to approve our consent agenda for personnel, special services, and business?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And that brings us to unfinished business. Can I have a motion to approve as a first read policy 5100, which is comprehensive attendance policy? Have a motion to approve as a first read?
So moved.
Okay, and second? Okay, and that was just approved a couple years ago, right? So Jen, will you talk us through what the changes were this time?
Actually, Tim is going
I
to.
will be
Okay,
doing it.
thank you,
So-
Tim. Oh, sorry,
Sure,
thank you,
sure.
Tim.
Yes, so the policy committee had, we had our first meeting last month, and we're bringing this one to you for a first read. It's the comprehensive attendance policy. This was updated in 2015, just 2 years ago. NYSBA's making a recommendation because of a federal act to include homeless students in the policy, so we thought it was important to put that in. So there are 2 lines, as you can see in the red line version, of where we included the wording from the NYSBA recommendation, which is in regard to homelessness. And it's a way to make sure that attendance policy does not prohibit homeless students from having access to education and being sensitive to their needs. So we included some language that NYSBA recommended in that. While it was open, I also reviewed it with the principals, and at the high school, Chris Walsh asked that we change some language about letter of notification to change it to written communication, so that we could be, he wants to experiment with email communication when it comes to absences. As students gain absences, he thinks that'll be more immediate than a physical letter being sent, which can take several days for parents to get to. We think it'll be more timely, so he wants to experiment with that this year. So we thought we weren't changing much except to be more general. We still think it should be written communication, but we want to allow that flexibility. So the policy committee reviewed this and felt as though it was good and wanted to bring it to you.
So legally, is that fine to do it as written and not mailed? Yes.
Yes, that would be
Okay.
fine. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Any comments?
It's probably easier to document because you can do return receipt. It's on email communication. You can
It's also
document that it's been
faster for
received.
parents. After you have a certain number of absences, by the time they actually receive a
Yeah.
letter in the mail, the child has exceeded those absences.
It's become an issue with, sort of sending it through the post office, because sometimes by the time they actually get that letter, you're to the next level.
Right.
Um,
Makes sense.
And so they thought this would be faster.
Very good. All right. All in favor? Okay, so I assume we'll see it again for a second read to.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Okay. And now we are going to new business, and we are joined today by David Teller, who's with Naraki Smith, which is our new external auditors. And we are going to review and hopefully accept our external audit report for the 2016 through 2017 fiscal school year. So actually, just to set this up, before we discuss, can I just have a motion to accept our external audit report for the 2016-2017 fiscal year?
So moved.
And a second? Okay, and open the floor to
David?
David?
Okay. Thank you. Again, I wanted to thank the board to bringing us in as your external auditors. This was our first year, and we really appreciate the confidence you put into our firm. We hope we've exceeded those expectations again with your discussions with management. Hopefully we have. But again, as I expressed to you previously, it was a great experience starting, and we look forward to hopefully a long relationship going forward. I do have just a few things that I'd like to just highlight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions as you see fit. First is our firm was contracted to perform the audit of the general purpose financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2017. We found there to be no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in the internal controls of the school district, and no compliance findings or question costs related to with the records that we reviewed. The general fund which is what I wanted to kind of just focus on briefly. The general fund, as it stands at the end of the year, is within all allowable limits as promulgated by the New York State Education Department and Comptroller's Office as far as fund balance. It's also, the district operated its budget on the year-to-year basis within all allowable measures. You underspent your budget for the year and exceeded your revenue budget for the year, which is great fiscal management going forward. The district, as the numbers are presented on the financial statements, presents a very strong financial picture for the district going forward, which gives the board very many options to move forward with funding various programs and continuing offering the strong curriculum that you do here within the district. As far as the other funds, I didn't really have anything really to highlight as far as that they're being operated again in all accordance with not only GAAP and GASB standards, but also with the promulgations by New York State Education Department and the Comptroller's Office. And again, the one thing I did want to highlight is just that the financial statements are presented in accordance with the reference manual that's promulgated to us by the New York State Education Department. So it meets all compliance standards and the format that they're prescribed to, as well as all of the GASBs that are enacted for the current fiscal year have been incorporated within the financial statements. So they are presented in accordance with everything that could possibly be put together for a district. That was kind of just a brief overview. I really went into it a lot more detail, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or go through anything.
Just have one question and then just a statement. On the question side, just did you receive throughout the process all full cooperation from the administration?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm remiss that I didn't say that earlier. We had great cooperation throughout the entire district. Again, we primarily focus with the business office, but we do branch out to other areas within the district, and again, we had great cooperation up and down. Whoever we asked provided us with any records, unfeathered access, which again, as an auditor, is what you kind of look for, because you ask for something and they take a little while to get back to you. You always wonder what's going on. We asked for or requested records, we received them almost immediately. So everything was transacted on a great basis.
And then the other thing I just wanted to mention, just for the public's knowledge, just because when you look at the financial statements, it's very apparent the increase in liabilities because of the underlying assumptions in the teacher's pension fund, one of which is the rate of return that's expected going forward on the investment portfolio, which was 8% coming down to 7.5%, and then the change in actuarial assumptions, and when you put those two things together, it makes a big impact. Those aren't assumptions that we have control over, although obviously I think they're two assumptions that have moved in the right direction just from the standpoint of trying to get financial statements that are clear in terms of liability.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You're exactly right with that. Hopefully, as we kind of talked about earlier, is that there'll probably still be some more movement, so that there are, there was a negative impact because of those actuarial assumptions. But again, the district nor I had any control over those. Those strictly are held up at the TRS system.
David, there were recommendations that were made last year and recommendations that were made this year. Can you, for the sake of the public, talk about how you felt the district responded to those recommendations?
Of course. Yes, during the conduct of our work, we did come across some things that we felt could either strengthen the procedures and the internal controls within the district. again, I reference them as being suggestions because we are very happy with the way in which everything is being transacted as it stands currently. But there's always rooms for improvement. So there are things that we came across that we thought could improve upon. I think the business office has already taken a very proactive approach. I think some of the, out of the 5 suggestions we had, I think 2 are already kind of taken care of, I think, before I even came in and talked about them. And the others already have a plan in place in which by the time we come back next year, should be fully implemented. There was 4 recommendations left over from the previous year, from the prior auditor, of which 2 have already been fully implemented, and the other 2, which kind of coincide with some of the items that I recommended, should all be taken into account and move forward and implemented going by the time, again, we come back next year.
And you feel that those 2 other recommendations are in process?
Yes, yes, they are. What's nice is that the suggestions, whether it was from us or prior auditors or from the company, everything that I've seen with this district, there's a very proactive approach on bringing that to fruition and a clear sight to try to improve where you don't always see that. So it's very refreshing to know that we're kind of part of the team. We're trying to help build a strong set of internal controls and procedures for the district. And again, we mentioned, I don't even think the ink was dry yet, and we already had a plan in place on how to go forward with that and implement it, which I think is, again, a very strong sign of your business office.
And for us, it's very comforting to know that we have new eyes, new auditors on our fiscal management, and it's good to know that we're in great shape. You haven't really found anything of substance, really.
Yeah.
And Susan, Jim, our business office, the work that you did in preparing for this and responding to it is really admirable.
It was my pleasure, it really was.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I know he's watching. So Greg, we recognize you for your work here as well, and want to see you back here soon.
I would encourage the public to go and take a look at the audited financial statements as well. It's voluminous.
Yes.
But it's, the way in which you summarized that to the board was really, really helpful, so thank you.
It'll be on the website.
Yep.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
job on your first audit, too.
Thank you.
Yes. If there's any questions, again, after the fact, after, something comes up, whether it's tomorrow or 6 months from now, please always make sure you reach out and make sure I get you the answer.
Okay, I really appreciate that, and thank you for coming
Oh,
here and
no problem.
presenting it to
Thanks,
all of us.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming from the wilds of Melville.
No problem.
All right, so the motion is on the table. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, we have accepted the external audit report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So just to set this next topic off, 10.2, adoption of the 2018-2019 budget materials. Can I have a motion to adopt them?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay. And turn that over
I'll
to...
start a little bit. Just that our budget materials that we discussed tonight in our committee were the budget development calendar, the budget committee charge, and the budget guidelines. Jim, did you want to say anything about those?
Basically, we're going to follow the same guidelines that we followed last year in the budget development, and so basically, I think one of the board members will go over the calendar and highlight some of the important dates, but they're very similar to the process that we used last year.
The the public can expect to receive a budget brochure, as they usually do, and we'll keep the public informed of our budget timeline as we're going through it and what that budget report will be.
If anything, there's an enormous amount of information we make available to the public during the budget season, and all you've got to do is ask or go on the net and look. It's there. And we welcome your attendance, we welcome your questions.
Okay, and just for clarification, budget committee from the board is made up of Mia DiPietro and Ira Shulman, but obviously the whole board is involved in the budget.
Thank you. I'm just going to go over the calendar for the development calendar for the 2018-19 budget. January 9th would be budget hearing number 1. March 6th is the administration's proposed budget. March 20th is budget hearing 2. March 27th is budget hearing number 3. April 17th is budget hearing 4 and the board budget workshop. April 24th is the budget adoption meeting. April 25th is the property tax report card submitted to SED and distributed to the local newspaper for general circulation. The 27th is the budget statement, and required attachments are available at each school building. May 8th is budget hearing 5. May 9th, the budget notice will be mailed to eligible voters, and May 15th, D-Day, the budget vote.
I will just add that many times community members want to know when they can be heard about the budget. And the rules for this are somewhat prickly, but they're important, and we do follow them because it's pretty much handled this way statewide, and we found it to be effective. Budget hearing 2 on March 20th and budget hearing 3 on March 27th of 2018 are the times when community members are welcome to come in and give us their input on the budget, make suggestions, adds, deletes, what have you. But those are the 2 times. Rest assured, it's not going to do much good to come here on budget hearing 5 on May 8th after the budget's been adopted and make suggestions. So please mark those dates down if you're so inclined. March 20th and March 27th, budget hearings 2 and 3. Those are the times the board will entertain comments in the community regarding adds or deletions to the proposed budget.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, so any other comments on the budget materials? That would be the charge, the guidelines, and the calendar. Okay, all in favor of adopting this? Okay, nice job, thank you. And that brings us to a special report, which is our Beds Day enrollment report.
Right, which doesn't feel like such a special report because of our enrollment numbers and me keeping the board updated. You've been hearing a lot about our enrollment, first day of school, et cetera. But our BEDS, our Basic Educational Data System reporting, happened on October 4th. This is information used by the state for our official enrollment, and it's also the information used by our demographer for the annual enrollment study. Our number was 2,352 students, and as I said, that was, I believe, 46 students above what we were anticipating having at the beginning of this year. So we're going to continue to look at enrollment closely for staffing and program implications throughout the year.
Fantastic. Okay. Staff reports, right back to
Right
you.
back to Jen. Okay, first, just a little bit of a report about advocacy. I know that the board included in their last board goal to monitor and reform, education reform and advocacy. So on that note, I just wanted to inform you today, Assemblyman David Buchwald came and met with the PTSA and addressed them concerning what their needs are as a PTSA and really opening the door to him for advocacy efforts on behalf of the school. He said that he's reaching out to all school districts. So I thought the board should know that. I also met last Friday with the Lower Hudson Council of School Superintendents and also the Lower Hudson Education Coalition. And for board members and the public who are not familiar with this group, the Lower Hudson Education Coalition was formed last spring, and it is led by Peter Mustich, who's the former Rhinebeck superintendent. It has a 9-member steering committee that is looking at advocacy efforts to speak as a large group, and members of that steering committee come from Westchester Putnam School Boards, Rockland, and Dutchess School Boards, as well as the Lower Hudson Council of School Superintendents. So their goal really is to solicit information from superintendents and map out a strategic plan for public advocacy. And their goal is to have 2 deliverable advocacy efforts to give to Westchester Putnam School Board. They expect that the research part of it, the defining what the advocacy message is going to be and creating the plan is all going to occur by December. So I'll report back out to the board on what the progress of that group's advocacy efforts are. And also the New York State Council of School Superintendents met since our last board meeting regarding their advocacy efforts, and they're really looking to increase state aid and preserve foundation aid. They're asking for $428 million additional dollars in foundation aid. And they're also looking to reject charter school expansion. They're rallying against against that now. And they're also, as I mentioned to the board before, looking for a retirement contribution reserve fund, sub-fund, so that additional monies can be put in there. So I'll keep you updated on those advocacy efforts as we progress. People are trying to get a better global picture of what the advocacy efforts are going to be.
Sounds good.
And then for me also, just some, I like to end with some fun, noteworthy items, you know, whether I'm calling attention to students who have done something great or adults. Today, it happens to be all about the adults in the district, and the first one is about the PTSA. On October 17th, they are hosting Mark Brackett at H.C. Crittenden Middle School, who is the director of the Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence. And this really is supporting our K-12 initiative for school wellness. So we appreciate the PTSA working in collaboration with the district and bringing that great speaker. So I will be there. Hopefully parents will come out to see Mark Brackett speak. And also on October 19th, next week also, I will be hosting the Working Parents Committee. We'll be doing that at Byram Hills High School. I'll be going over the district initiatives K-12 with a focus on wellness. And then we will have an opportunity to go and listen to our partners, University of Michigan, to talk about how they are supporting emotional wellness in our classrooms. So it should be a very informative night for working parents and non-working parents to come to the district. And my last one is, I should do a game with Ira. Ira, who says united we stand, divided we fall? What coach?
The New York Giants.
Oh, maybe, but it happens to be Matt Allen. And I don't know if Tim can bring up our picture of Coach Allen. Got his 250th career win. So this is a shout out to our coach. And united we stand, divided we fall. I want to read this. This was sent out to the faculty today. Are words that Matt Allen used to describe his players. You could see him starting and trickling down in games and practices. Anytime he's on a Byram Hills campus, kids are starting to say those words. He's a coach, a mentor, and a teacher who was honored by the United States Soccer Coaches, formerly known as the National Soccer Coaches Association of America, with a High School Coach Significance Award. And as quoted by those coaches, the award is intended to recognize members who are coaching for character, using the soccer field to teach life lessons at a high school level. So this past Monday, October 9th, Coach Allen got his 250th career win, a 2-0 win over Warwick, who was ranked number 6 in New York State. Am I taking any? You want to take over?
No, you're doing a great job.
I am? I never want this job, but I think that this is really worth talking about.
I would add that Matt has been the varsity soccer coach now for quite a while. I remember a very young Matt Allen coming up as the JV soccer coach many years ago. And as players mature, so do coaches. And Matt's come a long way as a soccer coach. He's come a long way as a human and as a man, the way he interacts with the students. And I think we're all grateful for Matt's contribution to really what has been probably, I can say with some certainty, the most successful boys soccer program over the last 10 years in New York State. I think we have been, and this year the team is doing well, but it's not just whether a team does well this year or last year, it's the commitment he makes, the impact he has on the students, the leadership he shows, not only for varsity soccer, but for the entire soccer program, from varsity on down, which Matt has always been concerned with, his willingness to go the extra mile for his players and his students as well. So it's a wonderful achievement for Matt. Not a lot of coaches get 250 career wins, and congratulations, Coach Allen. And slowly but surely, sectionals approach. So what have you done for us lately? But we are very proud of you and congratulate you. It's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, and we are very fortunate that you choose to coach our children. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Someone should tell him that this is on the board meeting, so we should watch it.
I would imagine it's going to go viral too.
Yeah.
And that's it for my report.
Well done, thank you. Okay, and Tim, before you begin, I just wanted to say, October 18th, there's the Superintendent's Conference
Yes.
Day, and I just wanted to thank you for the detail that you gave us in the packet about what happens on that day. Kids are off, but the faculty sure are not
Yeah,
off.
that
Very
was-
busy.
that was
And it
great.
was really fantastic to see the meaningful work
Yeah.
that's going to be taking place. I mean, that was all spelled out for us, so we could see in each department.
Right.
And the meaningful work that's happening to teach our children, so I wanted just to thank you for putting that in the
Sure, we don't
packet.
always get the day in the fall, so it's nice to have that day in the
Right.
fall because there's a lot of work going forward, so it's very productive. Thank you. And for my staff report, let me update you on one of your board goals, which is the district data team. So we had our first meeting, and that is, the district data team is facilitated by me, Peggy, and Andrew. And then we have 2 people from each building join us, and that's an administrator and a teacher from each building who are part of their building data teams. So we brought them together for our first meeting, and we had 3 main tasks that we made some progress on. First is that I asked all the buildings to conduct a data inventory. We just wanted to know, what's all the data you have in your building? Who uses it? Who maintains it? So we're trying to get a sense of all the different data, which is leading me to our second task, which is looking at a data dashboard. So far we've arranged to see 5 companies already. Peggy and Andrew and I are vetting these folks. They're coming in and doing presentations for us to look at what they can offer us in terms of a dashboard. And once we get through, we have a few more next week, then we'll bring a few in to meet the whole district data team to see if there's something that could really help us in how we analyze data. The third task that we accomplished was the assessment report I reviewed with you a few weeks ago. I did that with the district data team. So they got to see the district data and the priorities that we're focused on. And then we're asking each building data team to create building goals related to the district goals so that we're aligning all of our goals across the organization. It was a really productive meeting. There's great members on this team, and I think it's going to be great progress. So we're really happy with as much as we accomplished already in our first meeting, and we have another meeting in November to follow up on refining our goals at each building. So I'll keep you posted as we go through this year.
And Tim, is the definition of data very broad, meaning it could be attendance data, it could be testing data, it could be anything else that's tracked?
So it started to grow as we started to share. That was part of the sharing of the inventory across all buildings. I asked each building to do it separate, and they presented the data they had. And then other people were starting to see, oh wait, I wasn't counting that data, and starting to realize it. So we are looking at quantitative data and some of the stuff around state tests, but as well as other data we have, like attendance data. We have school suspension data. We have lots of different data that could drive the types of decisions we make and give us information on students.
That's right.
The dashboard piece is actually interesting. I just saw a presentation at the Board of Regents last month where the state is considering, once again, I think it's their 3rd time trying to go out with a statewide dashboard. You may remember some controversy a few years ago with the state
Yes.
about privacy, and they ended up putting the kibosh on that for a while. So they're starting to come back at it again. So I will watch that carefully. I placed a few calls to try to find out how much progress they've made on it, and they haven't made much at all. It's an initial
It's the
conversation.
state education department that's?
Yes, yeah, the state education department. So monitoring that closely, especially the privacy piece, which was a big concern throughout the state, but also how that might impact us with the dashboard as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. And our interim assistant superintendent for business and management services, Jim, is going to talk to us about the NISBA aid,
Right.
right?
The board received an announcement from the New York State School Board Association regarding a state aid review. The School Board Association is partnering with school aid specialists, and basically that's 3 gentlemen who used to work at the Questar 3 BOCES in the state aid planning service, so they're very well deep backgrounds in state aid, and basically what they will do if the district were to contract with them is to come into the district and meet with the business official, treasurer, director of special services, transportation director, and look at operations, procedures. They would review all of our state aid filings for the last couple of years, look at grants, look at the stack forms, the special ed tracking system at the state, and see if there's any areas that the district didn't file for, or if there's any areas the district could file for additional state aid. They have a fee of 15% of any money that they find. That may be negotiable. I brought them into Tuckahoe. They looked at the state aid filings there. They didn't find anything. If they don't find anything, they don't recover any new money, then there's no fee. So we end up not paying any fee there in Tuckahoe. So it's It's not a bad approach to have another set of eyes coming in and look at the state aid. The districts in southern Westchester typically are low aid districts, high wealth districts. We receive roughly $4 million in state aid, so there could be a possibility of recovering some funds for us. If they don't, the only investment is the time that they spend, because they do have to, particularly our treasurer would have to spend a fair amount of time with them going over past state aid forms and answering questions, same with special ed director and transportation director. So with some time spent, they may be able to find something.
Jim, how long does it usually take? Like, how long are they in the district? Like, how much of our business department's time is this kind of?
At Tuckahoe, we had a kickoff meeting, and basically introduced to the people that they would be meeting with, and then they met with them individually for a couple of hours each, and then they go back and they're looking at all the paper filings and what have you. Then if there's any questions, then it's this back and forth that happens. So it's not real onerous, but it is a time it is a time commitment for people.
Questions? And what would be the reason that schools are missing this state aid?
The state aid filing has gotten easier now. I think Susan would agree with that, as opposed to when I started in 1983, when you had 15 different forms and you were transferring numbers to different forms. Now it's all electronically filed and what have you. But they may come in and look at transportation and review mileage, look at some expenses. We may not be claiming some expenses that are eligible for transportation aid. Our transportation aid ratio is the minimum, 0.065%. So if they found a couple $1,000, you'd receive 6.5% of that, and then obviously they would take 15% of whatever the money is as part of their fee. Under special ed, you may have a lot of times they'll find, if they find anything, it'll be in district students that are in special education programs that trigger a high cost that we may be missing. The high cost trigger in the district here is about $70,000. So you have to have, if you had a student that maybe had a one-on-one aid and several related services, OT, PT, speech, maybe some occupational component, something like that, you may trigger that $70,000, and then you receive aid above that. So it's those kind of things that are on the edge that you kind of miss. Some of the stuff that we file for state aid is very straightforward, pupil counts and what have you. Other things, there's, if we were interpreting something one way and maybe not correctly, then, may not get filed. So.
And how many years do they go back?
Years ago, you could go back several years and claim, and you would get paid. Now, I think they'll go back 1 year or possibly 2, and beyond that, they won't, reimburse you anymore.
Okay.
But do you feel the benefit is worth the time that she'll have to spend and you'll have to spend on this? The possible benefits.
It's probably worthwhile to take a look at it. Again, I don't think it's that much time. And again, I'm not sure that they would find anything because again, the more the wealthy districts, you're not getting that much state aid to begin with, and the filings are pretty straightforward. So it probably wouldn't hurt for them to come in and take a look at it.
To make sure we're not making the same mistakes year in and year out, which accumulate to a lot of unreimbursed monies.
Jen, what's your thought on that?
My thought is if there's taxpayer money out there and unbeknownst to us, we weren't doing it correctly, we should redeem it.
Any other thoughts or comments? So does it sound like we have consensus?
Yeah.
It's found money,
Yeah, it's no risk
There's nothing
to
to
it,
lose
yeah.
other than the
I'd be-
time that Susan and Jim.
It's only the time
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
our staff to chase what will probably be a nominal recovery, if any. But Susan, if it's okay with you, it's
Yeah,
okay with me.
Thank
All right.
Thank
Now that the
you.
audit's done, right?
Continuous improvement.
We can add it to
Thank
an
you
auditor's
so
report that everything's
much.
going
A
well,
lesson
and
for
we'll be
us
okay
all.
with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's great then.
Nothing wrong with more
Keep us
validation.
posted, be proactive.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing it. That would be great. Keep us posted on that. Okay. And that brings us to board reports.
Let us know when the check clears.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, we did the check. The point that you had made earlier
Just the
about
point
that.
was on the pay, if they find something, let's say, is their fee, do we have to front load their fee and then we reclaim the benefit? So let's say there's a $10,000 reimbursement. We have to pay them $1,500 and then we get the
And
reimbursement?
then, yes,
Yeah.
that's what we'd have to do.
Yeah.
Can we negotiate that so that they don't get paid until we get paid?
I can negotiate that, I can tell them 15% is too much, I mean, I don't think they fined $1 million, but if they did, that's a pretty hefty sum that you have to pay.
I'd be willing to give them a good portion of the fee upon some letter from the state acknowledging the obligation and just saying you'll be paid in the ordinary course, whatever that means. Yeah, they've done their job. But unless we have a commitment to pay from the state, I don't want to front on anybody's
Yeah,
fee.
that makes
Right.
total sense.
That makes sense.
That's my only concern.
Yeah.
on something.
Okay.
So let's see what they say.
I'll get the contract from them, we'll take a look at it.
I'm
make sure that
happy
affects
to
them
look
to
at it.
Okay, good.
Debt allowance.
That's good, good
All right,
point.
thank you. All right, that moves us to board reports. Anybody have any committee reports, board reports?
The preschool association had their new member welcome function on Saturday, and there were a lot of new faces. The membership person wasn't there, so I couldn't get numbers from them, but they had a really good turnout. They were very happy with the turnout. I stopped in and it was crowded.
And then Robin, Lori, and I went to the Westchester Public School Board Association breakfast where it was very useful, where we just had the opportunity to meet with other board members from other districts on various topics, including committee structures and just all kinds of things that people are doing. So it was helpful.
I'm going to the Education Foundation meeting tomorrow night, and their grants year has kicked off, so I'm excited to hear what they have to present tomorrow, and I'll bring that back to the next meeting.
Okay, thanks. And town liaison, we met, this was our second meeting, and we met on September 29. And just in general, we talked about some idea for the communication committee could be maybe a toolkit about our schools with links maybe to the website video, and that would be for maybe town developers. And we talked about shared services, as we always do, school capacity versus town development. Anybody else?
Our first athletic advisory committee will be attending this Friday, so bring back a report next
good.
meeting.
Well, I guess I would simply say that we talk about a lot of sports, but the one sport that may not get its due, at least from here, is the football team. But they're going to get their due now.
They get it from me, though. I go to the games.
Well, they won a game, I guess it was Friday or Saturday night at Lakeland. The game wasn't decided until the last play of the game when an extra point by Lakeland went awry, and we won, I think, 24-23 or 23-22. But this is the fourth win in a row for the football team, coming back at Lakeland, which is never easy to do. And we're ranked, I think, 8th or 9th by the Journal News in Class A or B. I'm sorry, I forgot what the hell we are. But it's a remarkable year for these kids. This team, football program has had ups, it's had downs, but this is supposed to be a quote-unquote rebuilding year, and they're doing more than rebuilding. They're really winning. And next, I think this coming Saturday begins the out-bracket playoffs as they start to narrow, they seed and they narrow down into the sectional seeding. But it's been a very successful season. I mean, 4-2 so far is a terrific year for the football team. So congratulations, guys. Keep it going. And the win against Lakeland was really something special for you, so we're proud of you. Well done.
The Pee-wees are doing really well too.
Yeah. Well, no,
Our
it's
future players.
the future players. It's I saw a good portion of the game on it was streaming, and it really was something. It was an exciting game, but the last play of the game, for something to win a game like that is not usual. But good for them. Well done.
Good stuff. Okay. And in this board packet, you all got administration's goals, and the next meeting we'll be talking about it. In the meantime, as you go through it, if you have questions, filter them through me, I'll combine them, we'll give them to Tim, and that will help facilitate the conversation, right? We've got a lot of time then with them.
Forward to that.
Okay. All right. And communications to the board, none that I'm aware of. Anybody else? Okay. And can I have a motion to approve our Board of Education minutes from September 26, 2017.
So moved.
And second. Were there any comments or changes? Okay, all in favor? Thank you again, Donna. And as I said earlier, the board met in executive session, and of the items I had mentioned, we discussed. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I just wanted, Donna, the coverage you did in the minutes of our discussion about the athletic issue was really terrific. You really got the whole discussion in there, and that was pretty rapid fire stuff, so well done.
Great, no changes to it.
That's right.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor? Thank you, everybody. Good night, thanks for watching.
Susan, thank you for everything.
Yes.